How are you and welcome to today's lesson. Today we're starting a new chapter, which is writing to persuade. You've taken it before in former years, and today we're going to start. We're just going to do a quick recap and immediately going to start. So today the first piece of persuasive writing, we're going to be taking it as you can clearly see in the workbook before we get back to the student's book. Now, what exactly do you guys remember about writing to persuade? It basically explains itself when you're writing to explain someone about something, about an opinion, about an idea, right? Now, when I say writing to persuade, what can you think of? What forms of writing can you think of? Do you think reviews, like if you're giving a review of a restaurant? Do you think that's a form of writing to persuade? What about brochures, about a place, about a mall, about a country to visit? What about advertisements, right? Yes, so brochures, advertisements, basically anything that has the purpose of convincing you or persuading you to do something or to not do something, or to go somewhere or to not go somewhere. Okay, so today we're going to be reading a passage which it was taken from the website of PETA, which is an organization campaigning for the ethical treatment of animals. It's short for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Okay, in this article, the writers are trying to persuade their readers that keeping animals in zoos is wrong. So now you know what this person is trying to persuade you of, so let's come together and see whether we've been persuaded or not. Okay, now this time I want us to read the questions first and then get back to the text so that we don't get confused. So just want to mention a few points that I realized in the past exam or so. All right, so question 1, as usual, we define the words but we define them based on the context in which they're mentioned in the passage. So context is the key word here, everybody, okay? So if you give me a definition and I know that it's right and you know that it's right, but it's not how it's been used in the text, then unfortunately you cannot be awarded the mark, okay? So this is regarding the first question. In question 2, it says, by referring to paragraphs 1 and 2, explain using your own words why the writers say that although zoos were once necessary, there is no longer a need for them. So we're going to look at which paragraphs, 1 or 2, and we're going to explain using our own words. So we're not just going to copy and paste or quote. Even if I do quote, I'm going to be explaining the quote in my own words. So what? Using our own words. Okay, what are we trying to explain? That although zoos were once necessary, there's no longer a need for them. Number 3, what is zoochosis? What are the symptoms? In your answer, you should use your own words as much as possible. Why is this person saying your own words, your own words? Because it's literacy, everybody. Literacy is your ability to express and to read and to write, to be able to express yourself very fluently, okay? Number 4, according to the passage, how many zoos are there and the circle's animals? Question 5, explain as fully as you can. So if you give me a 2 or 3 word answer, that is not as fully as you can. You can do better than that. All right. Number 6, what do you understand by the phrase the exotic pet trade? What do you understand by the phrase? This basically means, what does this phrase mean? Okay, in what ways do visitors to zoos unintentionally cause harm to the animals? What's the key word here? Unintentionally. So if I come to you, or if a person comes to an animal in a zoo and hits them with a stick, is that unintentional? No. Is that a way to harm? Yes. But what is the question asking about? Unintentional harm. Unintentional harm. All right. Number 8, why do the writers think the zoos are now obsolete? Number 9 is write a summary. Okay, remember, we said whenever they're asking us about a summary, we need to read carefully what they need the summary to be about. Okay? So it says, write a summary of why the writers of the passage are opposed to zoos and of how they would like people to support their campaign. So this is what the summary is going to be about. Why the writers are opposed to the zoos and of how they would like the people to support their campaigns. Okay? This actually really helps you because it helps you with choosing which part of the passage you're going to be focusing on and summarizing. Okay, so your passage should be between 150 to 200 words. Number 10 is, how far have the writers of this article persuaded you to share their point of view? How far? Were you convinced? Were you not convinced? In your answer, Refer closely to the use of language in this article and to the facts and opinions mentioned in it. All right, remember guys, in your answer you're going to look closely at the language. What kind of words did this person use? Did they use emotive language? Did they use strong words that made you feel stronger, that convinced you even more? Okay, and to the facts and the opinions that it contains. Remember in class we discussed the difference between a fact and an opinion that looks like a fact, right? So if I say, like for example, if I say Barcelona, I think Barcelona is the best football team. That's an opinion, and the key word that I used here was I think. But if I say the sun rises from the east and sets from the west, for example, that's a fact. You can't change it. The whole world can't change it, right? But if I say Barcelona is the best football team, it's still your opinion. But you didn't use I think or maybe or perhaps anymore. So it's an opinion that looks like a fact. Okay? So in your answer, you're going to look at the language. You're going to choose specific words that helped in persuading you, right? And emotive language, basically. Remember the forestry that you took, the mnemonic forestry that you took last year? We're going to discuss it even more in further lessons. And to the facts and opinions. Now, let's get to the piece. There's nothing difficult about it. All right? Now, another point, other than focusing on the question, when we go through the questions first, remember we said we want to get used to it. Go through the question first. Think of the keywords. It really helps us to know what to focus on while we're reading. Okay? Zoos evolved at a time when travel for most people was impractical. Nowadays, wildlife watchers can hop on a plane to Africa, Australia, or Costa Rica for photo safaris, or even stay at home and catch nature documentaries on television or view live internet video feeds, which can capture animals' natural behavior that is rarely, if ever, seen in zoos. There was no excuse for keeping intelligent social animals in cages for our fleeting distraction and amusement, for our brief and quick distraction and amusement. Habitat loss and other dangers of the wild are not prevented by confining animals to cramped conditions and depriving them of everything that is natural and important to them. Cramped conditions, tight conditions. Now, to me, I think this use of language in the word cramped, for example, was very convincing, because when you say tight or you say small or you say tight, when you say cramped, it gives a feeling that it's really tight in here. Okay? Caged and crazed. Most zoo exhibits provide animals with few, if any, opportunities to express natural behavior or make choices in their everyday lives. Animals are closely confined, lack privacy, and have extremely limited possibilities for mental stimulation or physical exercise. These conditions often result in abnormal or self-destructive behavior. Behavior is known as zoochosis. Can you remember if we've read that in the questions or not? The word zoochosis? Wide-ranging animals such as bears and big cats pace incessantly. Primates and birds mutilate. That's a strong word. He didn't just say they harm themselves. He said they mutilate themselves, which is extreme harm or mutilation, basically. Extreme harm. Mutilate themselves. Maybe they bite they bite a claw, or they pluck their feathers, etc., etc. That's self-mutilation. Okay? Oh, it's birds. All right, tamam. Mutilate themselves, and chimpanzees and gorillas become overly aggressive. Hoofed animals lick and chew on fences and make strange lip, neck, and tongue movements. Giraffes twist their necks, bending their heads back and forth repeatedly, and elephants bob their heads and sway from side to side. All right, I hope this is clear so far. If you have a question, of course, contact me on Seesaw. When cute little babies grow up. Baby animals in zoos are crowd pleasers. But breeding programs pretending under the disguise of species preservation inevitably result in a surplus of less cute adult animals. More animals, more than they need. Zoos routinely trade, loan, sell, or barter adult animals they no longer want. Unwanted animals may be sold to dealers, who then sell the animals to dilapidated roadside zoos or traveling circuses. From 2006 to 2009, Missouri's Dickerson Park Zoo handed over surplus giraffes, zebras, kangaroos, wallabies, and exotic antelopes to questionable entities. Questionable. It means you're not really sure who or what these people do and how they're going to they're going to treat the animals, okay? Questionable people or companies or organizations, including a notorious animal dealer. What's notorious? Infamous, famous for something bad. Animal dealer who was known to have sold animals to hunting ranches, exotic animal breeders, dealers, and unaccredited zoos. What does exotic mean? Anything that's exotic is something that's unusual to you. So something that's exotic for me may not be exotic for somebody else, right? So exotic is unusual. So unusual is different from person to person. New Jersey's Cape May County Zoo sold 2 giraffes, Twigs and Jeffrey, to an animal broker and then sold them to a traveling circus. The exotic pet trade has become saturated. What do you think of this word? Very emotive, very strong, right? Saturated, not just full, but saturated. It's so full, it can't take anything more. Okay, with tigers and other big cats because of the zoo industry's reckless disposal of exotic animals. Reckless. Other animals are simply sold for slaughter. Each year, when baby animals who are exhibited in the Minnesota Zoo's farm display grow up and lose their appeal, the zoos send them to livestock auctions, where many of them are ultimately sent to slaughter. Not a single U.S. zoo has a policy of providing lifetime care for the animals who are born at its facilities, and many zoos breed species known in advance that the offspring, especially the males, will be difficult to place when they mature. All right, danger behind bars. By their very nature, zoos leave animals vulnerable, weak, prone to being harmed, to a variety of dangers from which they have no defense or opportunity to escape. Animals in zoos from coast to coast have been poisoned, left to starve. Look at this emotive word. It's not just hungry, it's starving. It's so hungry. Deprived of okay, now my tongue got twisted. Veterinary care and burned alive in fires. Many have died after eating coins, plastic bags, and other items thrown in their cages. Does this ring a bell in the questions? Animals have been beaten, bludgeoned, when you hit someone like with a bat, and stolen by people who are able to gain access to their exhibits. What can you do? Zoos will be forced to stop breeding and capturing more animals from the wild if their financial support disappears. So the most important way to help animals who are imprisoned in zoos is simply to boycott, to cut ties with, to stop going to zoos, and urge everyone you know to do the same. With informative television programming, educational opportunities on the internet, and the relative ease of the international travel, learning about or viewing animals in their natural habitats can be as simple as a flick of a switch or a hike up a mountain. The idea of keeping animals confined behind cage bars is obsolete. Do you guys know what obsolete means? It's something that, like, for example, Microsoft, if you have a software on your laptop, for example, and you have to update it, that means this one is now obsolete. It's out of date. You can't use it anymore. So it basically means outdated. Sorry, I read the passage a bit quickly, but it's because I don't want the lesson to be too long. This is it for today, and good luck everybody. If you have a question, I'm right here.